What is up, folks? Targeting Winners, Season 2, Episode 5, maybe? We're doing it way too early. ACC Preview in the middle of March Madness. Hope your brackets are not totally trash yet. As we head into finishing up round 1, going into round 2. But here, we're going to talk about the ACC coming up this year. I'm here, as always, with Darren and Pete. How are you, fellas?
Not too bad. Happy tournament weekend, everybody.
For some, not if you're Kentucky.
Yeah, right.
So, Darren, what's up?
Not my bankroll during this tournament. I believe I'm a nice 0-3 for day one with my wagers. So, yeah, college basketball can suck a fat one. Let's bring it up.
I haven't heard much from Parlay Paul, so I'm assuming he's
probably got like 72 brackets going, 71 of which are probably haven't had Kentucky winning the whole thing. But, good luck to him if he's doing that.
All right. ACC, America's Conference.
And your fave. All right, so just some ACC changes here. No defections here. They did bring in a couple Pac-12 leftovers, California and Stanford, and they also brought in SMU, moving up from the American Athletic. Again, like I said, nobody bailed on this conference, so 17 teams for the ACC. They're also going to no divisions, and they only have 8 conference games, so that's kind of what the ACC is looking at for 2024.
Amen. All right, so how do you want to break this down? We got 14 teams. Or no, we got 17 teams.
Tim, did you not just hear what I said?
I just heard. I'm not really counting those 3 so far.
You're like my wife and just never listen to me. My God.
For all intents and purposes, we've got 4 teams. I mean literally.
We got better than that. But if you want, we can start with the teams that look like, based on the odds and how we've kind of broken them down, that really have there's probably more than 6 that really don't have a legit shot. But let's just group the ones that we're all in agreement have no chance here. We'll kind of go from best to worst of those 6, I guess. So you've got California and Georgia Tech at plus 6,500. Virginia and Boston College at plus 13,000. You have Wake Forest at plus 25,000 and Stanford at plus 50,000. So looking at those 6, anybody got anything positive at all about any of those 6 programs?
Well, their GPAs are pretty good, I'm sure. So they'll be able to add up all their losses by a factor of 12 or something. I don't know. Do some cosine and tangents with their losses. There's nothing good. This is not a very good conference. Even I could admit
it. No, it's not. I don't know what happened to Stanford, who was once a decent program. It seems to have
Harbaugh left. That's what happened.
Yeah, it seems to have imploded somewhere along the way here. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is it's almost like the group of 6. Like they should put the ACC with the group of 5. With the way the other conferences are just like becoming these, 20-team monoliths here. But it is what it is. Yeah, those 6 teams, I'm in agreement. They do not have a shot.
Yeah, so, the only thing I like about any of them, even remotely, I like Haynes King, Georgia Tech QB. I think he's pretty good, pretty exciting QB to watch. Way too many picks, though. 16 of them last year, so he's definitely got to cut down on that. But again, their defense, terrible. Their schedule, brutal. And California, who I openly bet against in the bowl game last year, they do have Jaden Ott. So, they do have an excellent running game, but you're looking at a spring quarterback battle. Their best defender, my good buddy Caleb Elarms-Orr, he went to TCU. So, good players missing here on both of these teams, and the other 4, I got nothing. I don't see anything where they're even going to compete for the title game.
No. I mean, if you're covering your buddy's $4.3 million debt like a certain baseball player, you might want to put some money on Stanford and see what happens.
Well, I'm sure he's listening to the show, so let's keep up. Let's give out some good information because I mean, if you're going to go to jail, you might as well at least win some bets, right?
Shohei and Ippei, is that what
Sounds like a law firm that's going to be representing them, but whatever.
All right, so where do you want to go first, fellas?
Tim, let's talk about a couple teams that have some high odds that you kind of found something that you like here. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Panthers, currently sitting at plus 11,000 at FanDuel. What do you like about them?
Yes. Well, when I look at a lot of these, I look at their schedule. So basically, are they playing Clemson? Are teams not playing Clemson? It's all, let's take a look because where the home games are, where, are they playing on the road? How far are they traveling? Stuff like that. I don't think I had my notes on Pitt here. Where'd they go? Yeah, they got Clemson at home this year. That's the one roadblock I see. If they can get by that game, and they're a tricky team. They play up to their competition. Sometimes they'll play down to their competition. It's just one of those. It's tricky. I'm obviously not going to bet them to win. They're barely above the group of 6 here that we had that have no shot. The schedule is intriguing just because of who they got at home, who they have on the road. Again, with Clemson being the only real roadblock, there's some other teams. It's the ACC. Anybody can beat anybody just about. But that was just one team that's on my radar. I'm not ready to fire off a bet just yet. But that's one team that would be in a tricky category for me.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this team. Last in scoring in the ACC last year, gave up over 27 points a game. And they're losing a lot of players on the defensive side of the ball.
They did.
Yeah. And you mentioned Clemson. They also get Louisville. They get SMU. They get North Carolina. They do miss Florida State, Miami, and NC State, so that's helpful. But too many offensive questions here, along with too many defensive losses. I wouldn't fire on this team either. Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, they're going to play defense, even with defensive losses. I mean, they always play defense, so I expect to see that. But their offense was greatly lacking. I don't see how it's getting better than that. I don't know how they score points and actually compete in this conference. So I don't think they have much hope of doing anything other than keeping it close and play some defense and keep teams down a bit maybe. But yeah, I don't see much for them here.
All right, well, let's take a peek at Tim's other team he kind of likes, Duke Blue Devils. Team that actually does play some defense. So Tim, what like you about the Blue Devils?
There is a couple things. One, obviously they got a new coach, so you want to check in, see what's going on. Before I get totally crazy, they do play Florida State. They have Florida State at home. Obviously, I think they're going to lose that game. They have some good tune-up games getting into the schedule. They have a tricky game at Northwestern. Because Northwestern finished hot last year. They have North Carolina, the rival, at home. Georgia Tech's not. I don't have them slot as a very good team. They do play Miami at Miami, but they do in November. Now, they usually Miami's hot in the beginning of the year. We got to listen to the U is back, the U is back, the U is back. Then mid-October they suck, and then they just collapse downhill. So they get Miami at a good time. If they had Miami in like week 2 or 3, that'd be one thing. But having them at what looks like week 9 or whatever it is, they do play at NC State. They have those 2 games back to back. So I think this could be like a game like the old Oklahoma State bet last year. Bet it because they have a shot to get in. They could get in with only 1 loss, depending on who Clemson falters against, if they do, or if, God forbid, if Florida State falters a couple times. Who knows? They got some new faces there as well. Plus 11,000. That's pretty attractive. I don't think that line's going to change between now and the next couple of months. So I can check some bloggers, maybe look at the spring game. There's a lot of talent on the team. Elko left a lot of talent there. Long shot, sleeper, but I don't mind Duke here. Like I said, Florida State, they have SMU at home. They have Virginia Tech at home. Those are like the three tough games. Again, if Clemson can lose another 1 or 2 games, they may have a shot. And then go in there and then hedge and hope it doesn't end up like
our favorite thing in the world
last year. So, which I don't think it will, because no one's expecting much from Duke. So I don't think, I don't think they're going to, if they falter on the last week, it's just going to collapse or anything. So, that's my bet and hedge sleeper, but I'm not going to bet it yet. But if it stays at 11,000 in June, I might say screw it and go ahead and throw in a unit bet on Duke to win the ACC of all things.
Interesting, man. Yeah, I mean, the defense is great. Losing Riley Leonard is going to be a blow.
Yeah,
they got Malik Murphy from Texas.
Yep.
He played in a few games. I mean, statistically not super impressive, but I mean, I think any success they have is going to hedge on how he does. You had mentioned the schedule. Yeah, a lot of tough games in there. NC State, Miami, SMU, FSU, North Carolina. But no Clemson or Louisville, so that'll certainly be helpful. But I got to see something from Malik Murphy before I would even consider firing here. But as of now, not a fan of Duke.
Okay.
Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a similar discussion to Pitt, right? And this is a team that's going to play defense. Any team that can play defense has a shot on any given day. But I think their offense is going to be severely lacking. I'm not overly excited about Malik Murphy. I mean, he could do something, but I have not seen anything out of that would make me overly excited about him as a player. Who knows? Maybe he'll be a superstar, but I don't see that. It would take that. I mean, it would take him stepping out for this team to actually have a chance. Otherwise, the defense will keep them in games. Once again, similar to Pitt, and they'll be around. But I don't see how they win this conference.
All right. So, yeah, we're only like 12 minutes in the recording. We got 8 teams already broken down. So, all right, let's go to one that I can't bet on, the Syracuse Orange. I believe they're the Orange now. They're not the Orange men anymore. But I think
it's been for a few years, yeah.
Has it? Tells you how much I pay attention to Syracuse football. But Pete has informed us that they are sitting at plus 4,500 anywhere other than New York, where you don't get any odds on them. Any thoughts on the Fran Brown-led Orange for this year?
I'll start on this one. I just think it's too early. I mean, I like the coach. I like the hire. I like what he could do with this team. I think there is a future here. But yeah, going from the depths of the depths of where they've been, it's not going to magically turn around in 1 year. It's going to take them time. It's going to take some recruiting classes. I think this discussion 2 years from now could be entirely different. But right now, they're not ready. They're not there yet.
Yeah, I took a look here. 37 players have left. Fran Brown has brought 34 players in. So that's a pretty massive roster overhaul. This team ended the season horribly. They got swatted 45-0 in the Boca Raton Bowl. But they did bring in Kyle McCord. So he had a pretty good year leading Ohio State. So interesting to see who he throws the ball to. Damian Alford got dismissed from the team in January, entered the portal in February. This could be a run-heavy, defensive-led team. But, Pete, like you said, just this massive overturn, it's going to take some time. Their schedule's pretty manageable. No Clemson, no Louisville, no Florida State, no North Carolina, no SMU. NC State and Miami, I think, are the only 2 teams with better odds to win this conference than them on their schedule. So it's doable, but I was never a huge Kyle McCord guy, so we'll have to see what he brings to the table, but not backing Syracuse here.
Yeah, I mean, if you took this before, or if I did it before you, I would have said, what Pete said. Pete pretty much nailed everything I was going to say. It's not going to happen. They're not going to go from 2-10 to 10-2 in that big of a turnaround. Get some transfer portals in, bring in some more recruiting classes, establish your kind of play, and that takes a couple years. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if next year, they might get down to like plus 2,000 or something next year to win. That'd be a good bet for 2025. But right now, I'm going to wait a year before I bet on Syracuse.
All right, so moving on up the odds boards. North Carolina currently sitting at plus 2,500. 8-5 last year, but we all know Drake May is no longer there. Anybody positive thoughts on the Tar Heels from either of you guys?
Not after losing Drake, man. Only the most important position. Yeah, they got at Florida State. They're home against NC State. They got that. They're at Duke. I think Duke. They got James Madison. I don't know what the holdover is going to be from last year from that team. Interesting game starting off against Minnesota.
Yeah,
but I don't see the year that they faltered last year too on us. They started out great and then just fell apart a little bit towards the end. I don't see them. I would almost put them into the no shot list category. So that's I'm staying away from them.
Yeah, I largely agree. I mean, I think it's a transition year for them. I don't know where it goes forward from here, but I see them stepping back from where they were quite a bit here. They likely are in the no shot category as well. So I don't see much out of them this year.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Typical team that can score a lot of points, but can't stop anybody from scoring a lot of points. And like Tim had mentioned, best offensive weapon gone. My guess, Max Johnson, I believe he's the A&M transfer, probably gets that job. Still got a good running back. Mario Hampton is still there. He had over 1,500 yards last year. But an already bad defense lost their leading tackler, Cedric Gray, to the NFL. Schedule, again, pretty manageable. But until I see any decent quarterback play, even close to what Drake May gave them, and a defensive improvement, I wouldn't touch this team either. All right, we're getting into the good stuff, the top 7. Let's start with the Virginia Tech Hokies. 7-6 last year. I kind of like this team, so I'll gladly go last here. Pete, we'll start with you. Any thoughts on Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll have a positive year. I mean, they were 7-6 last year. I think it was a step forward for them. Played well in this latter half of the year, which is a good thing. Their roster is pretty much intact, meaning they're not losing a lot of people. So I think that's a positive thing as well. Defense, they play defense, right? They're not number one in the league, but they play defense. And as I said earlier, any team that plays defense that actually can play offense as well has a shot. So I think, would I bet them? No, but I think they're going to be competitive in this league without question.
I agree. I like the quarterback. This would be another sleeper pick for me. I really like them. The schedule seems to work out a little bit. Whoops, I totally missed it. But yeah, here we go. I would say this would be a sleeper pick. I kind of like, you get a bigger number from Duke, obviously, but, they have Clemson at home. They are at Miami. They get Miami early enough in September. So if they can take care of them then, that'll make them look better. So to get that higher ranking, they have at Syracuse, at Duke, and they have Clemson right in the middle of that game. So, or right in the middle of those two games, rather. So that could, give them a nice warm up. Hopefully they can rest some players going into that. Hopefully it's not a look ahead game. But Virginia Tech, that could be a nice pick for this conference as well.
Glad to hear you say that, Kemosabe, because I am playing Virginia Tech to win this conference here. You had mentioned the QB, Kyron Drones. Love him, man. 17 TDs to only 3 picks. Also had another 800-plus rush yards, another 5 TDs on the ground. Pete had mentioned their defense. He only gave up a little under 24 points a game. One of only 2 teams to give up less than 300 yards a game in the conference. So another thing Pete mentioned on all that returning production, we spoke a couple weeks ago about Iowa State, and I had said, well, they're second in the country in returning production. Guess who's first? Virginia Tech. So yeah, a lot of quality coming back. And as Drones was getting more comfortable, I don't know if you can, here's a weird stat for you guys. In November, first game in November, they only scored 3 points against Louisville. For the entire month, their offense still averaged 33.5 points a game. So this offense is rounding into form. A lot of it's coming back as well as on the defensive side of the ball. Tim mentioned the schedule early at Miami, home against Clemson. Every other game there is certainly winnable. They're going to go as far as Drones takes them. And I'm just waiting to see what DraftKings and BetMGM has for a number. I'm hoping to get plus 2,000, but if I had to take FanDuel plus 1,800, then so be it. So I will be making a bet on this. And as soon as all the books come out with the odds, definitely let you know what I took. But yep, love me some Virginia Tech to win this conference. All right, I'm done with the ceremony. Thank you all for listening. Okay.
Virginia Tech with the drone strike.
Oh, and I didn't even mention they entered to Metallica for every home game, but
that is true.
Yeah,
they do have a cool entrance.
They do have very nice entrance. All right, moving on to the other newbie. We had already touched on California and Stanford and how we really don't like the chances of either of those programs. One team that could potentially make some noise here, SMU. Currently sitting at only plus 1,800 to win this conference. Guys, any thoughts on the Mustangs?
Well, I think certainly long term, this is a nice place for SMU to be, right, in this conference. I think, for this year, I love Preston Stone. I think, if he's healthy, I think they can certainly make some noise. They're going to score some points. They were very effective last year when he was healthy. I think this is a team that, of all the ones that are coming in from elsewhere, this is a team that could do something here. It's hard when you have teams coming into conferences like this, and it's just difficult to assess how they're going to play within the conference. We'll talk about the Big Ten later, and that's the same thing, like looking at teams that are just coming in. So it's hard to tell, but I think this team absolutely could make some noise in this conference. I mean, would I throw a shekel or two at them as a long shot? Potentially. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, it could be a long shot. I'm just taking the new conference approach. I think long term, because they're right in the middle, in the middle of Texas. They're a hotbed of recruiting talent, so they're going to have a step up on a lot of the ACC teams in years to come. I mean, probably I know 3 stars, a 3 stars, a 4-star, a 4-star, but I'd rather have a 3-star from Texas and a 4-star from Virginia. I mean, and they got the linemen, and Texas is full of linemen and linebackers and definitely running backs. They got it's a huge pool of talent to pull from. I think they can take advantage of that. But just like last year with UCF and those other schools there, Cincinnati going to the Big 12, they have that first year sticker shock, if you will. I think this would hit them. So I wouldn't touch them. I'm taking them off any kind of list that I would have for betting, just because it's the first year.
Yeah.
So they're making that jump. So we'll see how they adjust to that. But in the future, I think it looks good for them.
Yeah, Tim, that's a great point. We had talked last year when we did our Big 12 about those 4 programs, not just changing conferences, but going from a group of 5 conference up to, what was then a Power 5 conference, and how poorly they actually do. And you had mentioned UCF, Cincinnati, I believe Houston and BYU were the others. Yep. The best team of those 4 in conference, I believe, was Central Florida at 3-6. So that level of competition, I think going from the AAC to the ACC is going to be a challenge for them. I mean, Pete had mentioned Preston Stone. Yeah, that dude is legit. And if he's healthy, like Pete had also said, he's going to tear it up. But if you look at that 11-3 record from last year, that schedule was almost Liberty-esque in its weakness. 3 of those games were against Power 5 schools. Those were their 3 losses, so they're already having some trouble last year when they were good. And I also saw in their last 10 games against Power 5 schools, they're 1-9. So this team's going to need more than Preston Stone to get them competitive here. SFU, yeah, Stephen F. Austin, welcome to the ACC. Florida State, FSU, yeah, dyslexia, woohoo, and Louisville, probably the only 2 tough games on their schedule. No Clemson, no Miami, no NC State. But that jump from a group of 5 to a power conference, that struggle is real. So until I see them beat a couple of big boys in conference, I will not be putting any money on SMU at all here. All right, we're down to the top 5. The NC State Wolfpack, currently sitting at plus 1,100. Grayson McCall making his move from Coastal Carolina over to NC State. Does he make a difference in what you guys feel about this team?
Go ahead, Pete. You go first.
Well, this is actually one of my picks, right? At this number, I like them. I think they're going to be competitive here. You mentioned Grayson McCall, which I think will be an interesting addition to this team. I think they have to shore up the defense a little bit, but they do play defense, so I would expect them to compete well. I like their schedule. I mean, to me, that was when I was debating between, there's really 5 teams I think have a pretty decent chance here in this conference. This is one of them. And their schedule is one of the things that lean me in their direction, because it's actually pretty nice all the way through. I mean, they get Clemson on the road is the one difficult team. They get Tennessee at home. Outside of that, I mean, I really like their schedule pretty much all the way through. So I think that will benefit them greatly through this year. So this is I would put a unit on them. I'd like to set that number a little bit longer than it is, but still, it's not bad. I think it's plus 1,100 right now. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it's a little shorter. It was plus 1,400 a bit ago. So I was kind of leaning that direction. Was a little higher. So I hope it moves back that direction a bit. But yeah, it's to me, it's a worthwhile play.
Yeah, I have this under my tricky category, and the reason is I think NC State is the ACC's version of Oklahoma State. They're going to win some games they really shouldn't win, and they're going to lose games that they really shouldn't lose. They got a nice game September 7th against Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I forget where they're playing that game. It's not in Tennessee or North Carolina. It's somewhere else. But I can see them. They're the kind of team that could, they'll beat Tennessee, they'll beat Clemson, they'll lose to Syracuse, California, and Stanford all in a row. Like they're just that kind of team. There's plenty of talent on that team. I see that they're not playing FSU, and I'm fine with that for this year. So they always seem to be the team when they have the talent that just come up and just bite FSU in the ass. So the fact that they're not on our schedule for some reason, it seems like we play them every year, so we get a year off from them. But still, they could very easily lose. They could easily beat Tennessee. They can, give Clemson all they can handle, and then they'll lose to Northern Illinois, or they'll lose to, Duke and Wake Forest, and people are like, what the hell happened? So they're in my tricky category. I'm not going to place a bet on them.
Yeah, I'm not. Did Tennessee join the ACC? Well, why are you guys talking about the Volunteers? Am I missing something?
They're playing. It wouldn't
be the first
Tennessee
time.
State.
Oh,
yes.
Because you guys talking about the Tennessee game. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's SEC.
The game.
Okay,
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as you guys.
Breaking news: Tennessee leaves the SEC for the ACC.
Tim, I know you have ACC connections. Stop bringing schools in without telling us, because now I feel
Right?
unprepared. Yeah, I'm a Grayson McCall fan as well. Health, obviously an issue here. The only two concerns I really have, Pete mentioned their defense. Yeah, it's legit as all hell, but Peyton Wilson, their leading tackler, is gone. The run game, man, they got to learn to run the ball. Their leading rusher last year was QB Brennan Armstrong, who's no longer there. Their second leading rusher was a wide receiver. Their third leading rusher was actually a running back, but he had a whopping 309 yards on the season. So I would like to see them try and run the ball a little bit. Yeah, defensively, they were super solid last year, but leading player on defense gone. Your quarterback's gone. You are bringing in somebody good, but again, now he's also stepping up from a group of 5 conference to a power conference. We'll see if it takes him any time to acclimate here. Yeah, I just until I see some run game here, because once you start getting into these Clemson games, you're going to need to run the ball on these guys. So I'm staying away. But Pete's betting on them, maybe. So we got some NC State love here, but not from here, bud. All right, we have reached our final 4 for odds. All right, let's start with Louisville, sitting at a measly plus 500. Is that correct? Yeah, it is. The Cardinal. Tim, you guys pummeled these people in the championship game last year. We'll defer to you to get started.
Blistering, the offensive explosion from our title game performance.
Did better than Louisville did.
Yeah, that is true. So yeah, I can see the one thing I noticed. I was looking at them. Everyone talks about Florida State with the transfer portal and all this stuff. Louisville has 26 transfer portal kids coming in this year, which is unreal. FSU only has 9, but I guess what Mike Norvell said last week is they concentrate on Florida State's because their transfer portal students are good. Louisville does have a little road stretch here. They have 4 and 5 weeks on the road. They are home against Miami. They got Miami at home. They're at Clemson. And, they got the usual game against Kentucky. At Notre Dame is another one as well. So they have 3 good warm-up games. I don't see them. They beating Notre Dame this time around. They could make the title game. I don't see. I can see about 3 losses on their schedule, and it can go either way. So I wouldn't. I know the Kentucky game doesn't matter as far as the ACC standings, but they could probably lose that one as well. But I do like the coach. So if he can coach up the players that he's got there, especially with the newcomers and integrate them coming in, it can go either way. I mean, I'm not. What's the line on that? Were they plus 9, 800?
Plus 500.
500? No, I'm not touching it. I mean, need more of a. If it was plus 9, plus 1,000, something like that. Maybe fire off a bullet, but no, I'm going to leave Louisville alone for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I like where this team is going. I like Jeff Brom a lot. Obviously, players do as well, because you mentioned that the transfer portal, and he's getting a lot of players in, which I think will benefit him tremendously this year and in the future as well. You got to replace Jack Plummer, which is a challenge. My issue with them, I think they're a good team. I would potentially bet on them. Their schedule's brutal. I mean, trying to deal with Notre Dame and Miami, assuming Miami is what we think they're going to be, in Clemson, Kentucky, they could easily lose all 4 of those games. I mean, I would not be surprised if they did. They're not beating Notre Dame. They're probably not beating Clemson. So, I mean, they're going to have at least 3 losses. And it's just, and you mentioned the road kind of the trip they're going on, which is not a good thing. I just don't think their schedule sets up for them at all. There are no favors at all from the schedule side. So otherwise, I do like the team. So I think next year it could be a totally different discussion.
Yeah, their portal class is pretty excellent, usually in the top 3, depending on what website you use to look at those things. Not a big Tyler Schaff, however you pronounce his last name. He could potentially be the guy replacing Plummer. Not super impressed with him. I do like Colin Lacey, the guy they got from South Alabama, that wide receiver, 91 catches, 1,300 yards. He'll be a great fit in there if he can work with whoever ends up being quarterback. The Notre Dame game, not a big deal. That doesn't count for conference, I don't believe. Maybe. I wish Notre Dame would just join this damn conference and make everything easy, but they're too busy rolling in money, being independent. But yeah, the Miami game worries me. The Clemson game definitely worries me. The SMU game could even worry me. That's 3 potential losses right there. I don't think a 5-3 team is participating in the conference title game here. So, and even if I did like this team as much as Pete did, like Tim said, 5-1, that's way too low. I would have to get at least 8-1 to even consider it here, just because I'm not a fan of whoever's going to play quarterback for them.
All right. Yep.
All right, Tim, we're pretty much going to let you roll with the last 3 teams here, because I know 2 of them are your favorites, and Pete and I'll just shop on our popcorn and let you go to town. So, and you let us know when you want us to comment. Well, for the remainder of the show, the floor is yours. So
rant away.
Let's start with the U, the Miami Hurricanes.
Oh, his favorite team.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only going to get better after this. Plus 450 to win the conference. One of your favorite coaches of all time. I know the Georgia Tech.
He is one of my favorite coaches of all time. Yes.
All right, Tim, tell us why you love or don't love the Miami Hurricanes.
I hate Miami.
And we're off.
Yeah. So, I mean, they do get Florida State at home this year. They're at Louisville. They start off at Florida, and that's, I'm reading some of the bloggers, and they're saying, they want to root for Miami. I'm like, no, that's never happening. I probably won't even watch the game, but I hope Florida wins. I mean, that's how bad it is with Miami. I'd rather see Florida win than Miami. Then they got some rollover games. They got Ball State, and they got Florida A&M. I am kind of rooting for like a 8-4 season for Miami, because if they're 8-4 and 9-3, that's bad enough for them not to be in the conference championship, and it's also might be good enough to keep Cristobal around. My biggest fear is that Cristobal gets fired, because he's a very good recruiter. And if they actually get somebody that can coach to come in with all the talent that he's leaving there, that could be a problem. So we got to preserve Cristobal a little bit. I don't like them at all to win. Like I said, they'll come in, they'll start off, they'll probably beat Florida. and they'll, Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, they'll be 4-0, and everyone, it's all about the U, yada, 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 blah, 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 suck it. And then probably around Virginia Tech, maybe they even beat Virginia Tech, but then they'll lose to Louisville, hopefully lose to Florida State, and then that'll start the avalanche. That usually happens in late October, early November. And then hopefully they finish 8-4. Crystal ball stays for another year. They extend them, give them a bunch of money. And that's where I'm at. So if they go 8-4, I'm good with it, because then crystal ball will stay a little bit. Circling that game against Georgia Tech, I'm thinking they might win that game pretty big and take the game out of crystal ball's hands, where a kneel down will not matter, because they'll be up by like 30. So, just quick review. I hate Miami, and
I would have never guessed.
I hate Miami. I hope crystal ball stays, and that's that. A lot of talent. I just think they're poorly coached. And if they get a real coach in there someday, it's going to make my life miserable, and I'm not looking forward to that. So,
Pete, go ahead, man. Top that if you can.
Well, I don't hate Miami, but I look at them the same way I look at Penn State in the Big Ten, right? They recruit, they have talent. Every year, there's expectations that they could theoretically meet, and then somehow they don't. Right? They lose games they shouldn't. There's poor coaching. Something horrible goes on, whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden, all those expectations go down the toilet. I would expect that what will happen with Miami this year, unless they have their miraculous rising from the ashes here or something. But I agree with Tim. I mean, I think that when it comes down to coaching in big games, if you have to make the right decisions, I don't trust that Mario can do that. And so I look at it very much the same way. When we get the Big Ten and I talk about Penn State, I'll be saying the same things roughly that Tim just said, other than I don't hate Penn State. But anyway.
You should hate Penn State.
Yeah, in 2 weeks when we do the Big Ten, Pete, that's your show. Yeah, 2 weeks. That's all you, buddy. So I'll just say, I mean, I agree with a lot of you guys touched on. The one person we have not mentioned, Cam Ward. Heading from Washington State to Miami. Expect to see this dude as one of the 4 people sitting in the Heisman room, as much as it pains me to say that to Tim, as I know he loves him some Hurricane. Dude possibly could have been the best QB in the transfer, and now he's going to a team that's had defensive issues. 40-plus yards plays allowed. They had 11 of them last year. Their starting 2 safeties and their starting 2 QBs are all gone. So you could be looking at a team that's going to be in a lot of shootouts. Pete, I know you're a resident totals guy. That may be on your watch list, any Miami total, because Cam Ward's going to need to put up some numbers. And if Miami has any kind of success, he'll be one of those 4 guys sitting in New York City for Heisman night. But Cristobal just scares the hell out of me. The schedule's pretty easy. Louisville, Florida State. Now I guess I got to throw Georgia Tech in there. Maybe the only 3 games that could pose a challenge for them. But, Pete nailed it perfectly. You, with the game on the line, you can't really trust Super Mario there. So the odds are way too short anyway, even if I could. So plus 450. I will pass here, but if you're a daily fantasy player, just start Cam Ward every week, because it's going to be terrible what he's going to do to other teams. All right. We've got co-favorites currently at this recording, but in honor of Tim, we're going to start with the team he hates. Let's go to the Clemson Tigers, one of 2 teams sitting at plus 280. Tim.
I hate Clemson.
All right, well said.
So much hate in this podcast. I can't help it.
That's okay.
I'll give them this. They're starting off against Georgia, so we'll get a gauge on how they're going to play the rest of the year. Is that the Chick-fil-A Bowl this year? Is that the one they're playing in? Usually Georgia doesn't like to go very far on the first week.
Yeah, probably.
To get people in their backyard. They are, at Florida State this year. They're home against Louisville, at Virginia Tech. So those are the tough games. They got a game against South Carolina at the end. They have SEC sandwich in there. I don't see that game being too much of a trouble. The one thing I want to watch with Clemson, again, no transfer portal. He's just doing it with his people, and we'll see how that works out. I don't know if there's any other teams that aren't using the transfer portal at all. Like, you go through the list. It's like Florida State 9, Louisville 26, team, whatever 10, 9, 9, 0, like nothing. He's putting his faith in Klubnik and the players. He is a great recruiter. I'll give him that. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I don't really care for him because he coaches Clemson. So, the line is not nearly high enough to bet on, even not to bet on FSU either. So, I mean, but I think they're going to come in second. That's the homer in me. But, I can't. I'm trying to think of nicer things to say, but Klubnik could develop into a good quarterback. Wasn't really all that impressive, I don't think, last year. I don't remember watching a game and being overly impressed with him. We'll see what the Louisville. That's late enough in the year where hopefully the new quarterback in Louisville can get acclimated. Then he's got to deal with drones up at Virginia Tech. So we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they get through that schedule unscathed. I wouldn't be surprised if they had 2 or 3 losses.
I'm just going to go first, Pete, because I hate Clemson as much as Tim hates Miami, so I'll keep this short and sweet. My dumbass bet on them to actually win the national title last year. I was buying into Klubnik and that defense, and Dabo finally pulling his head out of his ass. The only thing happened good was they had a good defense. I can't trust Cade Klubnik as far as I could throw him. Will Shipley's gone. Dabo's still a fossil. Screw Clemson. There's no price. Sorry, Tim. I didn't mean to steal your Miami Thunder, but I'm, like literally week 1, you went to Duke and turned the ball over like 4 times. Sorry, it's and now your best running back is gone. So I don't see Klubnik developing like I had hoped he would. I thought Garrett Riley coming over from TCU and how he made the TCU offense look, 2 years ago, he would bring some of that to Clemson. But Dabo just refuses to change. He likes his own people. They're all fossils like he is. To hell with the Tigers. Sorry, I'm not betting them, in case you couldn't tell. So, sorry. Pete, go ahead.
You've left me to be the one positive ray of sunshine here. This is it?
They're plus 280. A lot of other people love them. I got burned once until I see change. Why would I fall for this again?
I don't disagree with anything either of you said. The man can recruit. He's got a lot of really good players in that team. There's a lot of talent and potential in that team. If it were me and I were him, which I'm not, thankfully, although he's probably has a lot of money, but anyway, that I'm thankfully not him, I would have gone to the transfer portal to get a quarterback to replace Klubnik. Because with the right quarterback in there, I think it could be a really good team. I think that is what will hold them back. Plus their schedule, which I don't love. They're going to, Tim mentioned it, right? That first game against Georgia, we're going to see something. They're probably going to get killed. I don't see where that's going to go, but who knows? Maybe they'll compete there. They're at Florida State early October. That's a loss. They're playing NC State late in September, which I think will also be a loss. And so I take those couple of games. They got at least 2 losses right there. I'm sure I can find a third if I go down this list and look at
Virginia Tech, Hokies.
Yeah, Hokies, Virginia Tech. Yeah, because they're at Virginia Tech.
Clear my throat there.
They're playing Louisville the week before that in November, right? So that could be a loss as well. So, honestly, this team I shouldn't be able to find 4 losses in the schedule for a team that has this much talent. But the sad thing is you easily can find 3 or 4 losses in the schedule for a team with that much talent. That says something about Dabo. That says something about the quarterback as well. And I think that's going to be their Achilles heel this year.
All right. The last team, co-favorite. Pete and I will be leaving the show now. We're going to leave it in the hands of Tim.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you guys,
or we could say our part, and then we could just leave it to you. But Florida State also sitting at plus 280 to win this conference. Pete, do you want to go first? Should we just let Tim go last?
Yeah, we should let Tim go last.
Okay, Pete, go ahead. Thoughts on Florida State?
I'll go first, and I'll stay short. Man, they lost a lot of players. They had a lot of turnover on this team. They were obviously a really good team last year. Do I think they're going to repeat that? I actually don't. And I'm sorry, Tim, but I don't see them repeating. I think they had too much turn through this team. Yes, they have some awesome players on this team, but with the competition in this conference, they're absolutely going to be in play to win this conference, but I'm not picking them to win this conference. I think that there's some challenges going forward for them. I mean, they might lose 2 games. I mean, looking at their schedule, I said I don't want to spend a lot of time on them, but looking at their schedule, I mean, could they lose to Miami in Miami potentially if the wheels haven't come off the Canes by then? Who knows? But that's going to be a tough game, right? Looking at Clemson in October coming there, that's going to be a really interesting game for sure. So yeah, I mean, they win those 2 games. I mean, I don't know if they're beating Notre Dame in November. So that's interesting to me as well. So I don't know. I mean, they have an interesting schedule, an interesting team. I'm really interested in watching them this year because I'm curious how they're going to respond to what happened to them last year. Sure, they're going to be angry in the first couple weeks, but that'll wear off. We'll be in a new season. What happens from there? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, right. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Ton of turnover. I think going from Jordan Travis to DJ. I'm not going to try and pronounce the last name. Tim, I know you practice it in the mirror every night. I think that's a downgrade. But yeah, curious to see that first game, week 0 in Dublin against Georgia Tech to see if they can keep Haynes King under control. I mean, we'll get a good idea of what that defense is going to look like as they try and keep him under wraps. But yeah, certainly coming in with a chip on their shoulder, like Pete said. But the transfer portal rates high. I mean, it's all going to depend on how quickly Norvell gets them playing like last year's team. But just the fact that they're a favorite. We don't really do that for conference futures, trying to avoid those favorites. But yeah, the Clemson game, like you said, is interesting because even if Klubnik still is trash, is he any better than DJ? I mean, who knows? But again, it all going to come down to what that defense looks like. So avoiding them mainly because they're a favorite. But yeah, again, like Pete said, interesting to watch that first game of week 0 to see how that defense looks. And Tim, before you start, I just want to say, I took UAB. I took UAB plus 6.5, and then I lost by 4. So my record is now 1-3. So I'm quitting. Good luck to anybody with a bracket. All right, Tim, go ahead.
Darren's bracket is done.
I didn't even do a bracket. That's the first college bet I actually won in 4 tries. That's why we don't do a college basketball.
Exactly. Well, let's go to piggyback on what Pete said. There is an awful lot of turnover, especially on the defense. I mean, they lost Fisk, they lost Verse. I believe Lovett's gone. They do have a kid from Oregon State. They got a kid from West Virginia and a Colorado State that they're obviously not going to be Jared Verse, but they are very good with the one kid. Talk about a name hard to pronounce. Let me see if I can pull it up here. It's, oh boy, Tamiwa Duro Jaive. It's from West Virginia, but he's a very highly ranked defensive lineman. They do have half of Alabama's roster coming in from last year. They got about 5 or 6 players. Roydell Williams being one of them at running back. They do have a stud running back they got in a recruiting class. We'll see if he sticks around. He'll probably be in the portal next year, as with most of these recruiting classes. I do like DJ. He's a lot bigger framed guy than Jordan Travis was. He's actually, been in this type of a system that they had up there in Oregon. And so I don't think the acclimation time is going to take that long. I mean, he's buried into the playbook now, I'm sure. I doubt he's going to class. So, I mean, but yeah, I think they're going to win this conference. I would, like to put in maybe a future bet, for a national championship, whatever those lines are. I think if they win the conference, they get one of those top 4 spots. They're going to get a look at it. Obviously all the big money is probably going to go on Georgia and Ohio State and schools like that. So they might overlook Florida State, citing the new people. They got some new receivers coming in. They got Hakeem Williams coming back. So, yeah, they have plenty of talent coming in. Norvell can coach people up. I'm hoping he stays, for the duration. I hope no other schools fire their coach, high-profile schools or anybody else retires where they're going to say Norvell is going to go to this school now. But maybe the powers that be will just give him another $10 million raise so he can make some money. But, I see FSU. I obviously – say it's a horn pick, whatever. They got enough talent. They got the coaching staff. the schedule lines up right. I want to check the weather report for November 9th when they go to Notre Dame. I'm sure with my luck, it's going to be like 5 below zero, and team probably won't even want to get off the bus. But the schedule lines up nicely for them. Again, the sleeper pick at Duke, they're at SMU. We'll see how they're adjusting to the new schedule, the new higher level. We'll see how that plays out. I don't see too much trouble on their schedule. If they win the games, they should win. They should be there at the end, and they'll get a look at it. So that's my pick.
Excellent. Quick sidebar before we close this. So we've mentioned Notre Dame a whole bunch of times here. I did just make my futures bet on Notre Dame to win the national championship, plus 2,200. So I just did it right now while we were talking. So my bet 22. Is in for Notre Dame.
Do you have DraftKings in Michigan?
I do.
I think you can get 28 there.
I'll do it there too.
That's what I got. Yeah, I got 28 at DraftKings. I believe that's where I put mine. Hold on, now I got to double check. But yeah, I think they.
Yeah, I just happened to have FanDuel open, so I played.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll know when we do our bankroll management, Tim is a big fan of shopping around. So
absolutely,
yeah. DraftKings.
Your rates.
DraftKings 2,800, man. If you want to smack it on another place, if you like them so much, and
why not?
DK, baby.
I like it.
Number out there. All right, so Tim only spent 3 minutes on Florida State. I had the over/under at 5.5. So cash your tickets if you had the under. All right, bets for this conference. Tim, what do you got, or what are you gonna do once all these books come out with numbers?
FSU to win the conference, just because I think that's plus 280, but is for me easy money. I may do a sleeper pick on Duke just to hedge it. Right now it's at plus 11,000. Let me check some blogs and see how they're looking after the spring game. I don't think that line's going to move, but if it's still at 11,000 come June, I might fire off a unit on Duke.
Nice, Pete.
Yeah, I'd like to see NC State that line move to maybe plus 1,500 or so. If it moves that direction, I'm definitely jumping on it. I think it's a little soft at the moment at plus 1,100, but I think it will retract a little bit. So anything plus 1,500 or better, I would make that bet.
Excellent. And I will be rolling with Virginia Tech to win this conference. Waiting to see what DraftKings and BetMGM come out with. Currently at FanDuel, they're at plus 1,800. I would like to get plus 2,000, which is currently at Caesars. So if you like that play as well and have a Caesars account, you can get that now. But I'll be hoping for DK or BetMGM to have a plus 2,000. But yeah, when I make that bet, I'll let you know what number I got. But Virginia Tech for me to win the conference.
All right. Well, let's wrap that up there. As always, thank you all very much for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Target Wins, and you can also email us at cfbdudes@yahoo.com. Find us on Facebook. Please like, subscribe, leave a review, 5 stars all the way around. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.